all viewers who are tuning in today. This show can be seen on Roku and Roku Fire TV Sticks and Amazon Fire TV Sticks and on ZingoTV on Chromecast and all smart TVs 2016 forward. This show can also be seen on Fire and Fire TV Sticks and ZingoTV on Chromecast and all smart TVs 2016 forward. Please remember to download the Barn Burner and ZingoTV apps in their respective app stores. Both are free on both iOS and Android devices. While you're using, please remember to rate and leave a comment so we know that you are enjoying them and getting the most out of your usage. So, rather than the OHL experience today, this show is now for a full hour, the IIHF World Juniors experience. So, with that being said, let's get right down to it. We're going to start off with Hockey Canada because this tournament has just been, ridiculously fun, ridiculously full of energy, but more than anything else, ridiculously full of blowouts. So before we do that, actually, I do want to touch on just a couple of housekeeping notes. So let's start with Ridley Gregg. So although Ridley Gregg was released from selection camp prior to the tournament, he's now the second player departed to sign his entry-level contract into the National Hockey League. After Mason Millman signed last week with the Philadelphia Flyers, the Ottawa Senators announced on Monday that the former first-rounder, being Gregg, has signed his 3-year entry-level contract. Now, second, I'm going to follow that right up after noting kind of more about Ridley Gregg's contract, but do keep in mind that Dawson Mercer, prior to the tournament on December the 24th, also signed his entry-level contract with the New Jersey Devils for 3 years as well. So on that note, what I will make note of is that Dawson Mercer, as far as my knowledge says, is a source informed me that he will finish up in Chicoutimi in the QMJHL when play resumes in 4 bubble host cities, which starts on January 22nd, before joining the NHL club for the start of the 2021-22 season in New Jersey. So let's start with Ridley Gregg. So a native of Lethbridge, Alberta, Gregg, 18 years old, spent the 2019-20 season with the Western Hockey League's Brandon Wheat Kings and registered a major junior career high 60 points on 26 goals and 34 assists and 83 penalty minutes over 56 regular season games. Skating in his second full WHL campaign, he ranked third among Wheat Kings in goals, assists, and points, and was second in penalty minutes. In a statement from Pierre Dorion, who is the general manager of the Ottawa Senators, he said, "Ridley plays with an edge in all facets of the game. He's highly competitive center with strong character who is difficult to play against, driven, and especially motivated. We're looking forward to monitoring his development." Selected with the Senators' third of 3 first-round picks, 28th overall in the 2020 NHL entry draft, Gregg was invited to Canada's national junior team sport check selection camp in mid-November, but was ultimately unable to participate, being called unfit to play in this year's U20 World Junior Championship, which began on Friday in Edmonton. So that being said, let's move on to Dawson Mercer now. Again, Dawson Mercer is said to finish up in Chicoutimi once he returns following the conclusion of the World Junior Championship, which the next game for Team Canada is on New Year's Eve, and that is against Team Finland. So they do have the day off, and they're going to enjoy that day off after a blowout last night and a really close one the day prior. So, let's make some notes on Dawson Mercer now. Given that Mercer was born on October 27, 2001, he would be eligible to play in the American Hockey League next season, being 2021-22, after he turns 20 years of age. It also means he could join the Devils at training camp next season as well. Mercer is a versatile and smart forward who does a lot of things well on the ice. He is certainly one to watch, and for those of you who follow the QMJHL, who follow the CHL, you would know this. For those of you who are following along with the World Juniors happening at Edmonton, you would also know this because he is a point collector, and we are seeing that face-to-face every game that he hits the ice for, and he is yet to be scratched for a game. Now, speaking of scratch for a game, let's start with December the 26th when Canada opened their World Junior campaign against Team Germany. So they opened on a strong note with a convincing 16-2 victory over Tim Stützle and his native team, Germany. Now, for the sake of scoring points, Dylan Cousins from Lethbridge in the WHL, he finished that game with a 6-point night, including a hat trick and 3 assists. Dawson Mercer from Bay Roberts, Newfoundland, and Chicoutimi in the QMJHL tallied a 4-point night with 2 goals and 2 assists. Peyton Krebs and Alex Newhook both finished up, as well as Philip Tomasino with 2 goals and 1 assist apiece, while Cole Perfetti added 3 assists. Caden Gooley, Thomas Harley, Connor McMichael, Jacob Pelletier, and Ryan Suzuki rounded out the scoring for Team Canada that night. Now, Devin Levi from Dollar Day Armok Quebec and Northeastern University, who he's actually yet to play for at this point, stopped 9 shots in 2 periods of play before Dylan Garand from Kamloops of the WHL made 4 saves in the 3rd period, and Canada outshot Germany 44-15. Now, we have to keep in mind prior to this that Team Canada lost Kirby Dach in the midst of a preseason game, or rather a pre-tournament game. And so here's an update on his health. He did undergo surgery and will be out for approximately 4 to 5 months, according to the Chicago Blackhawks organization, after he flew home to Chicago to get a second opinion. So he did have a right wrist fracture, which again was sustained during that pre-tournament game. Surgery was successful, and team physician Dr. Michael Terry expects that he will return to hockey-related activities approximately within that timeline. So just a couple things to keep in mind. So with that being said, again, not the news Team Canada or the Blackhawks were hoping for, but this is what happens. So you live and let live. So that being said, the chemistry within Team Canada has certainly shifted early on as a result of that. Dylan Cousins and Bowen Byram have been assigned by Hockey Canada and the IIHF to split Canadian captain duties. But what's really interesting, I think, for me at least, is that Dylan Cousins naturally has that, I don't know, gift for being a captain, and as a result he's made himself open to all his teammates to come to him both on and off the ice, as he mentioned prior to yesterday's game on TSN, and has shown to be a leader, ability wise speaking, on the ice as well, and that's really showing throughout his offensive performance, again keeping in mind that he finished game 1 with 6 points, including a hat trick and 3 assists. So just something to keep in mind. So let's go on to Monday now, because Monday got really interesting. And it's certainly not what I think many expected as Team Canada hit the ice for game 2. So let's start here. Braden Schneider was suspended for this one after a high hit on Germany's Gianluca Schumacher. And not only that, but Dylan Holloway was also scratched with an upper body injury. So a couple of concerning factors here, to say the very least. Braden Schneider is a key piece, certainly, of the offense. Dylan Holloway, a proportionate, offensive abilities. So those were both certainly hurting Team Canada early on, I think is more than fair to say. But I don't think that in the end it ended up being such a huge effect, given Canada still won the game. However, maybe it would have given them some more offensive power to a game in which Canada seemed, I don't know, all but maybe burnt out from having electrified Team Germany for their first win. Anyways, so, given that that's my assumption, here's how this game went. Jordan Spence opened the scoring with his first goal at the World Juniors. Then later on in the game, Philip Tomasino added an insurance goal with 3 minutes left in the game, making it 2-0 Team Canada. Now, with 30 seconds left after Team Slovakia pulled the goaltender, Jack Quinn rounded out the victory, scoring an empty netter, and that made it 3-1. Now, before that 3-1 goal with 30 seconds left, Martin Chromiak from the Kingston Frontenacs did make his presence known, and he scored a goal. And what I really like about Martin Chromiak is the fact that while we didn't see a strong presence at all from Slovakia, which was, nothing less than not surprising to me, was the fact that Martin Chromiak, he's very smart and, very patient when it comes to the ice. So, that being said, here's what I found particularly interesting about Chromiak. So he took 4 seconds once he got the puck to kind of look, see the ice, see the best route, and then make it happen. And he got it right past Devin Levi, no issues. So while Slovakia didn't stand out, you have to remember that was particularly impressive. So just something that I really sat on. But, again, for Slovakia, this tournament is, a rough duck. And for that matter, the Austrians as well. And I will get into that in just a little bit. So that being said, let's continue to move on. Again, I'm going to go back to Jack Quinn now, as well as Philip Tomasino, or maybe I'll start touching on Philip Tomasino, because I think that he's, my player to watch for Team Canada at this point, now that we've seen 3 games and we've kind of seen, what Team Canada can do with their roster. And I think that Andre Tourigny, who's 2 decades of coaching under his belt, I think that he kind of is seeing the bigger picture, and it's working for Team Canada. It's working in their advantage, and I couldn't be more impressed by that. So that being said, Andre Tourigny has been moving around Philip Tomasino as well as other pieces of this roster, just, this and that. He did move Quinton Byfield as well. And for Quinton Byfield, it took a little bit longer to, light the lamp and get going, but he has since picked up. Anyways, that also be said, he's moved around Philip Tomasino, and, as a result, the best of his ice time has really only shown. So Tomasino in this game only saw 8 minutes and 48 seconds of ice time in this game, the least of any Canadian forward, which is actually really surprising. He did not play in the exhibition game, which I believe was against Russia before the tournament started. Not a game I was watching. Anyways, I'm only really interested in the tournament itself. So speaking from a personal vantage point, Canada, they look strong. I believe they won that pre-tournament game as well. So just 2 different things to keep in mind here. Because Canada, if you start a pre-tournament game with a win, it sets the tone for the rest of the tournament. So I've always said that, and quite frankly, it's the truth. And the IIHF had to reschedule all the pre-tournament games. They ended up with 3 pre-tournament games, and that was 6 teams because they couldn't get all 10 teams who were participating into it. So these were due to COVID cases in which Sweden had, Germany had, the Austrians had one. So it's just, that was difficult. But, I will get more into COVID as we continue to go along. But starting to keep a note here from Monday's 3-1 win, however, is that Devon Levi, it was his 19th birthday, and he secured a victory with 17 saves as such. He is 19 years old, and he is playing instead of Dylan Garand. He is playing instead of the third goaltender. So it's just, you realize that sometimes the young talent is the best kind of talent, and we're seeing that through the offense. We're seeing that through the goalie. Devon Levi is making his case to continue to be in net as the starting goaltender on a nightly basis through the remainder of this tournament. So in a statement from Devon Levi, he said, "Just being here is the best birthday present ever, and getting the win is even better." And then, here's kind of what's the only difference perhaps for Devon Levi, considering that he only knows CCHL hockey aside from, the World Juniors, the national stage, which is more or less, the professional aspect, given that it's televised via TSN. He said it's a different game while he's talking about the long stretches of inaction, meaning, the pauses in between periods, the extended 20-minute period intervals. So to that, he continued on to say, "It's harder mentally. You're not moving as much, and it's hard to stay in the game. But I went through a lot of games like this last year with the Carleton Place Canadians. I was focused and ready to do what we accomplished tonight. And while, again, it wasn't a blowout, he did the job. Team Canada won 3-1, and they got their record up to 2-0, and they got themselves into, a really good spot moving along with the rest of the tournament." So that being said, we've talked about Martin Chromiak, we've talked about Devon Levi, we've talked about the boys who were not in this one. But nonetheless, Andre Tourigny is also really positively focused on this one, saying, "I was really happy with our performance. You cannot always look at the score to evaluate the performance. I think offensively, we did a lot of good things, and intensity-wise, we did a lot of good things. We can improve a few things by moving the puck quicker and keeping it simple, but I like the stuff we did tonight. It was a rock solid win and a lot like the pre-tournament win against Russia." So just something for, food for thought. Andre Tourigny, he is seeing his systems be put into place. He is seeing the results come straight back, and they're coming in the style of wins. So if you count the pre-tournament game, Team Canada is now a perfect 4-0. In the tournament, they are a perfect 3-0 following last night's win, and I will get into that in just a little bit. So that being said, let's take a look at what else has happened across that night. So one night after scoring 16 goals in a tournament opening victory over Germany, which equaled the second most ever, Canada only managed 23 shots on goal, but it was enough to put them up 2-0. So let's talk about what else went on that night now. Team US won the same night, a game over Austria, 11-0. And now as we move on to Tuesday night, before Canada hit the ice, Team USA won 7-0 for their second straight shutout. Now, what's particularly important in this one, given that it mixes the World Juniors and OHL connections, is that Arthur Kaliev scored his first of the tournament en route to the 7-0 win. Other goals include Matthew Boldy, Cole Caulfield from the University of Wisconsin and Montreal Canadiens prospect, Trevor Zegras, who I've heard and projected myself as the early tournament MVP, prospect of the Anaheim Ducks, with a goal of his own to help drive home the win. So let's get into Tuesday for Team Canada now. Both Dylan Holloway and Braden Schneider returned to the ice for action for this one. What was really interesting about Braden Schneider, perhaps, for this one, and again, for those of you who watched on TSN last night, you would have heard this. However, for those of you who didn't, Braden Schneider admitted before the game he could have played things a little bit safer with regards to his hit in the game against Germany. However, he said he won't be changing anything about his game. He expressed his eagerness to return to action on Tuesday night against Switzerland, and so he just enjoyed himself a good game. He did get hit around a little bit. That was evident through the second period of play, but he's healthy. He's back to action. He's going to keep his head down. How much? Couldn't tell you, but good to see him back. And Dylan Holloway returned to action as well. He said he will fight through the pain and he will just play because, when you get the opportunity to represent your country at this tournament, the last thing you want to do is leave. And Kirby Dach didn't want to leave, but his hand was literally hanging by a thread. And that's what it looked like through a picture. Anyways, Kirby Dach spoke with the team of James Duthie and Bob McKenzie last night from the comfort of his home, watching his team. Meanwhile, Kirby Dach's locker has been left as, a way to recognize their captain. He's not forgotten, to make sure that he knows that, he's still with the team, even though he's, away now recovering from surgery at home. So just something special. And I thought that, Hockey Canada, they've been doing a lot of things to make sure that this is a special tournament. So, something that stands out to me, of course. Anyways. So Hockey Canada moved their record to 3-0 after winning 10-0 on Tuesday night. Philip Tomasino had a goal in this one, his third of the tournament. And then Devin Levi, who started all three games, had a 15-save shutout on Tuesday night. Dylan Cousins, Connor McMichael, and Ryan Suzuki all with goals in the win as well. Quinton Byfield with 6 points, 2 goals, 4 assists. And that, when you compare that to what Quinton Byfield has done previously, he had 1 assist in 7 games last year, and people were waiting for Quinton Byfield to light the lamp this year, given that on Twitter a lot of controversy has taken place with regards to, his overall status, given that a lot of people have found him a little too quiet for his liking, or for their liking, rather, especially given that with Kirby Dach gone, Andre Torini did move up Quinton Byfield, and so the question was, okay, how long until he steps up? Now, like I said, we saw Dylan Cousins step up. Like I also said, Dylan Cousins and Bowen Byram splitting the captain duties. We saw Bowen Byram step up as well. But Quinton Byfield, it was a matter of when, and he did it. And then he spoke with TSN last night saying that he found his footing and his comfort. And I will read that quote afterwards as well. So, that being said, Cole Perfetti and Jacob Pelletier from the QMJHL both scored 2 goals each. Now, interesting Perfetti. Perfetti's, those were his first 2 goals at the World Juniors. He was cut from selection camp last year in Oakville, along with former OHL, or a current OHLer rather, in Thomas Harley. And he also made the roster this time around. So what I'm going to mention this because I think it's really relevant, just given kind of where we're at right now with the tournament, as well as, Cole Perfetti's progress with the Saginaw Spirit in the OHL. So to that note, I did speak about the rise of Perfetti on the Puck Authority podcast with 2 of my colleagues, Josh Kim and Scout Joseph Stanislaw, on Christmas Eve, as he looks to drive himself to further success with the Spirit and later on the Winnipeg Jets, whom he was drafted by this year. So there was a great article in The Athletic recently saying that his anger and disappointment has only driven his success, and part of that was being cut from Hockey Canada's roster last year, feeling he didn't provide his best self, and so he came to camp in Red Deer this year. He did just that, and he made the roster. Anyways, so to move on with this, Caden Gooley scored the 10th goal in Canada's 10-0 win last night. Again, for Devin Levi, it was a 15-save shutout, and the player of the game for finally stepping up was Quinton Byfield, again with 6 points on 2 goals and 4 assists. This is probably the first time in this tournament that he has actually done something substantial. The assists early on in the game were kind of a question as to, is this a sign of a good thing to come? And yes, it was. So that being said, Canada outshot Switzerland by a final of 52-15, which really says something for the matchups that Canada has really faced early on. Their next challenge is Finland, and that will close out preliminary round action on December 31st at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific Time, and it's all seen and heard on TSN and TSN Radio. So, other news from around around the pod. Russia beat Austria 7-1 Tuesday night behind draft-eligible goaltender Yaroslav Askarov. And then Vasily Podkolzin, the captain, potted 2 goals. He was named player of the game for his performance, just missing his third. Marco Rossi was named player of the game for Team Austria, and Team Austria recorded their first goal of the tournament despite the loss. Marco Rossi did not score that goal. Meanwhile, what's really perhaps a substantial factor here at all is the fact that the IIHF revealed prior to gameplay on Tuesday that no new positive COVID-19 tests were returned to Edmonton. All teams finally have a full roster, which is really great news, given that it's not how they started. Germany only had 14 skaters. They got off to a rough start, but they finally recorded their first win on Monday night against Slovakia in a 4-3 overtime nightcap for their first win of the tournament. So again, Canada comes back New Year's Eve against Team Finland. And what's really interesting about this is that first place remains on the line now with that in mind. So again, Canada is perfect. Finland is right under them, and under Finland is the United States. And my projections are quite accurate, to say the very least. If we look at this, the USA will play on New Year's Eve too. But before we get any further, let's take a look at the Group A and Group B standings. So for Group A, you see Canada at number 1. Again, like I said, Finland right behind them with a 2-0 record. Slovakia number 3 with a 1-0-1 record. Germany with a 0-1-0-2 record, and Switzerland with a 0-0-0-3 record. Now the Group B standings look like this, and perhaps to no surprise with the damage duo, and that is Lucas Raymond and Alexander Holtz, that their record is 2-0-0-0. The USA is right behind them, 2-0-0-1. Russia is right behind them, and of course, I don't think that's too much surprise either, is that they're 2-0-0-1. The Czech Republic is 1-0-0-1, and the Austria is 0-0-0-3. So my projected standings for this were really interesting because overall, in the broad spectrum of not putting them between Group A and Group B, I had Canada, US, Russia, Sweden, Finland, Germany, Switzerland, Czech Republic, Austria, and Slovakia. However, I think what I am going to do with that now is move Slovakia up and put Austria right under them, because Austria just has failed to show up until now, and I think that that's kind of a concerning factor. So again, this is my personal take as someone who has followed the OHL for 3 years and someone who has followed this World Juniors tournament for just as long. So that to be said, let's keep moving along and take a look at today's schedule for the World Juniors while we have about 25-ish minutes left now. So first off, Tim Stützle and John Peterka are 2 big names to look out for Team Germany. Again, they are the only duo of chemistry that this team is seeing by any means throughout this tournament, which allowed them the 4-3 overtime win the other night. So that being said, Team Germany, I will actually touch on in just a minute because the first game that goes at 2 p.m., which is in just about 7 minutes or so now, that game is Finland versus Slovakia. Now, I expect Finland to win that. They're kind of my underdog team, just given that the skill that they have, and I will mention the key names in just a moment that team, hits the ice with. Again, that game can be seen at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific Time on TSN1, TSN4, and TSN5. Now, Slovakia, who only has Martin Chromiak, they're in trouble, much like Austria. If they don't show up and they fail to, acknowledge that, they are in trouble. So Finland, look for the win today there. From Anton Lundell to Brad Lambert to others whom I'm going to touch on in the next 5 to 10 minutes, just something to be mindful of. Now, the next game goes at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific Time on TSN 1 and 4, and that is Team Germany as they look to take on Team Switzerland. So let's touch on Team Germany now. Tim Stützle and John Peterka are the 2 big names, like I mentioned, to look out for. And what's really interesting as well, from another outsider lens, that Tim Stützle signed his entry-level contract with Ottawa Senators prior to Monday night's win. And that was, I think, a really, satisfying moment for Tim Stützle at that. So just to kind of give some perspective on how that came together, I will read his contract terms and such. But it was Bruce Gariach from the Ottawa Sun who reported that the number 3 overall pick was closing in on his ELC with the Sens all the way from Edmonton at Rogers Place. Indications are his release from Mannheim was granted today, being December 27th. This will clear him to be at camp after the World Juniors ahead of the NHL season, and perhaps he will make his National Hockey League debut on North American ice after being on North American ice at Rogers Place for this tournament. So that being said, let's give you a background of the kid who comes from Adler Mannheim, who is a stud and who was introduced to the Senators courtesy of Alex Trebek, who has passed away since. Now, the Ottawa Senators again signed the forward to a 3-year entry-level contract on Sunday. The Sens selected the 18-year-old native of Viersen, Germany, with the 3rd overall pick in the 2020 NHL entry draft. In his statement from Pierre Dorian, he said, "Tim possesses an exceptional blend of both speed and skill and a playmaking ability that our fans are going to enjoy watching for several years to come. He's a dynamic forward who we expect to become a key piece of our roster as we continue trending towards icing an eventual elite level team." Stützle has 34 points in 41 games for the Adler Mannheim Eagles in Germany's top pro league last season. The 6'1", 187-pound forward is serving as Germany's captain at the 2021 World Junior Championship in Edmonton. So just a couple of thoughts on Tim Stützle. Of course, I think he is, the next big talent and will be the next big leader of the Ottawa Senators, who are in the midst of reshaping their team. They just made a pair of trades with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So let's touch on the Ottawa Senators for just a minute, although it doesn't really have a lot to do with, either the OHL or to that sense, the World Juniors. I think it's worth recognizing the great work of the Ottawa Senators in the last couple of days to kind of turn this team around. And it comes from not only signing those ELCs, but a busy weekend at the helm otherwise with other players. So that being said, Derek Stepan was acquired from the Arizona Coyotes in exchange for a single draft pick. And then after that, the Ottawa Senators went out and they made a trade, like I said, with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So with that trade, if you give me just a second to pull that up, Ottawa Senators actually did better than their counterpart in this one, which is kind of just the reality of things. So, I will break that one down just because I think that it's important to kind of recognize that the rebuild is coming and it's starting firsthand, and we're seeing that. So let's start with that one. So the Senators acquired defenseman Braden Coburn and forward Cedric Paquette and a 2022 second-round pick in exchange for Marian Gaborik, who is all but done, and Anders Nielsen, who is the only active player that they get in this trade in return. So something really interesting about this trade, of course, again, the fact Gaborik is done, they acquired his rights anyway. Coburn is 35 and registered 4 points, 1 goal, 3 assists, and 16 penalty minutes over 40 games with the Lightning last season. Meanwhile, he was held scoreless while skating in 3 of the team's postseason contests. Now, Paquette is 27 years old and recorded 18 points on 7 goals and 11 assists and 42 penalty minutes over 61 games with Tampa Bay in 2019-20, and added 3 points and 3 assists and 16 penalty minutes while appearing in each of the team's 25 playoff games while helping the Lightning win the Stanley Cup at Rogers Place in Edmonton. A native of Shaunavon, Saskatchewan, Coburn was selected by the Atlanta Thrashers in the first round, 8th overall in the 2003 NHL entry draft, over 964 career NHL games with Atlanta, the Philadelphia Flyers, and Tampa Bay Lightning. He has posted 233 points on 49 goals and 183 assists and 706 penalty minutes. He has also skated in 137 NHL postseason games, registering 32 points, 3 goals, 29 assists, and 113 penalty minutes. So that's what the Senators are finally getting out of their rebuild, and doing so from the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then lastly, Paquette was the Lightning's 4th round selection at 101st overall in the 2012 NHL entry draft, over 377 NHL games, all of which have occurred with Tampa Bay. He's recorded 85 points on 47 goals and 35 assists and 345 penalty minutes. He has also tallied 12 points, 5 goals, and 7 assists and 121 penalty minutes over 91 career Stanley Cup playoff contests, again with Tampa Bay. So, Senators are stacking up, and they deserve to be that way. So, that being said, let's move on with the World Juniors, of course, because we have more to touch on. So that being said, while 6 p.m. will give you a matchup that honestly, at this point, is more likely Germany than Switzerland, the night gets rounded out when Team Russia takes on Team Sweden. That is your matchup of the night right there. So the big matchup here with Alexander Holtz and Lucas Raymond, again, the damage duo. Now, Raymond was injured on Monday. However, he returned in the third period and scored with an assist from Holtz. So nothing is going to hold that kid back. He's just so talented. I would keep an eye on them. Now, another name to keep an eye on this roster is goaltender Jesper Wallstedt, who has been a brick wall, and he will face a brick wall in Yaroslav Oskarov with captain Vasily Podkolzin up front alongside H.E.R Mukhamadullin from the New Jersey Devils, Daniel Chaika from the Guelph Storm, Mikhail Abramov from the QMJHL, and Rodion Amirov, a draft pick of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And then alongside them is Igor Afanaseyev from the Windsor Spitfires of the Ontario Hockey League. So again, that game at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 6:30 p.m. Pacific Time on TSN1 and TSN4. So that being said, let's kind of take a look here at how things are getting rounded out as we go into tomorrow, because these games just get more and more interesting. And as of today, we are going to start to see some heartbreak, but that heartbreak comes in a different form because we have to keep in mind here, there is no relegation this year. COVID-19 did teams a favor. Otherwise, we would have already seen Austria out, we would have seen Slovakia out, and we would have seen the Czech Republic at this point out. So just a couple things to keep on the top of your mind. Speaking of Czech Republic and Austria, they will face off against each other tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on TSN 1, 3, 4, and 5. And the key names to look out for there are drummer Pitlick and Jan Mysick. Jan Mysick from Hamilton and Pitlick from the Sioux. Mysick as well, a draft pick of the Montreal Canadiens, and they'll go up against Marco Rossi from the Ottawa 67s and Minnesota Wild to round out the day. Austria is seeking their first win at the tournament still to this point. They do have their first goal, so something has clicked, but we're waiting for the rest of it to come together. So that being said, as we have about 24 minutes left on the show today, with their win on Tuesday afternoon, the Americans will advance to the quarterfinal while preventing the elimination of Austria with the win over the Czechs. If the Czechs can't hold on for the victory, or at least an overtime loss against Austria, they'll also secure a spot in the quarterfinal, but they can't take anything for granted. Now, again, my underdog team here remains Finland, behind Sweden, Russia, US, Canada in that order, as the quarterfinals are now approaching, with the final preliminary games being played again today and into tomorrow. So key names for Team Finland on that end, like I said, I mentioned Anton Lundell, Brad Lambert, Joel Blomqvist, who is with Chicago Blackhawks in the NHL, Piroinen, Rupe Taponen, Ville Heinola, who is a draft pick of the Jets, Topi Niemela, Mikko Kokkonen, Ronnie Hirvonen, Akurati, who is one to look out for. He won player of the game in Finland's last game. And then again, my keynote being with no relegation, Czechoslovakians and Austrians, the two are finally starting to look at least decent. Maybe they would have been protected. And so, again, with their first win of the tournament just a night or 2 nights ago now, something to keep in mind. So that really brings me to and my World Juniors ramble for today. But again, let's touch on Andre Tourigny now, the head coach of Team Canada. We have seen some coaching changes within the last couple of days. Sweden does not have their ordinary head coach, and I believe Team Austria as well is also without their ordinary head coach. Andre Tourigny being here, he knows best, and this is something that I think is really important, as he is one of the only coaches alongside U.S. coach Nate Leaman, who was actually supposed to be there and was able to make it without COVID-19 complications. Andre Tourigny was able to avoid the COVID-19 outbreak of his coaching staff from Red Deer to Edmonton, given that Canada had the longest selection camp of the bunch. So just something to keep in mind. Now, with that as well, I think that Andre Tourigny, first off, he's one of the nicest guys I've had the pleasure of interacting with, and I did so during the selection camp in Red Deer via Zoom. He was a pleasure to get to know and pick his brain about Team Canada. Was a pleasure en route to the process of bringing down his 25-man roster from the 31 players, I believe it was, that he brought in for evaluation. So That being said, Andre Torini spent 15 seasons as a head coach in Major Junior Hockey. He has been the coach of the year in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, Ontario Hockey League, and overall in the Canadian Hockey League. He has won gold at the IIHF World Junior Championship and the Hlinka Gretzky Cup. He has 3 seasons as an assistant coach in the NHL on his resume and is one of the most respected bench bosses in the game. And when you talk to him, you understand why that is. So, before I continue to dig here, let me tell you that no Canadian coach has spent more time behind the bench at the World Junior than Andre Torini, someone who, again, has so much experience. He's got roughly 2 decades under his belt, and that's prepared him for his toughest task in Edmonton, where, these are not ordinary times. There are no fans. Getting to this number with 20 first-round draft picks on the roster was not an easy task in order to, pick who deserves what. So just something to keep in mind, but he picked an roster, and perhaps this is Canada's strongest roster to date, and I'm not the only one to say that. So anyways, as we continue on this story, a story of how he first became a coach is about as unglamorous as it gets. He said it was the boyfriend of a cousin of my now wife, and he needed an assistant coach. So he asked me, he says, of joining a U13 team in the fall of 1994 when he was just 20 years old. 2 weeks later, he got the job and couldn't be the coach anymore, so I took over. He spent 1 year in U13, 2 in U15, and 1 as assistant coach in U18 before he signed on as an assistant coach with the Shawinigan Cataractus of the QMJHL for the 1998-1999 season. After 2 seasons in Shawinigan and 2 back in U18 with Trois-Rivières Estaticus, a 28-year-old Torini got his first QMJHL head coaching gig with the Rouyn-Noranda Huskies in November of 2002. The rest is history. I like to lead people. The coach, affectionately known as Bear, says of what he enjoys about coaching. I like the strategy. I like the game within the game behind the bench. I like to teach. The thing I like the most now is building a culture, values, developing young men. For the last 6 weeks, Torini has been tasked with developing the best and brightest young stars in the game as head coach of Canada's national junior team at the 2021 IIHF World Junior Championship. It's the 5th time he's been a part of the coaching staff, more than any other Canadian coach in the history of the tournament. But the first time he has had the top job, he was assistant in 2010, 2011, 2013, and last year under Dale Hunter. Every year, it's a tradition around Christmas. Torini set up the World Juniors. There's nothing bigger than at junior level. It has always been a dream of mine, making our country and the people proud. I think there's nothing bigger than that. Of course, the road to the 2021 tournament has not been a smooth one. The COVID-19 pandemic has wreaked havoc on the hockey world, meaning Team Canada first got together November 16th for selection camp, some 4 weeks earlier than normal. Throw in the fact that most of the players invited hadn't played a game in over 8 months, plus an unplanned 2-week quarantine in the middle of camp and dealing with challenges of a bubble environment in Edmonton as they are now, and this will likely go down as Torini's most difficult coaching assignment. But adversity at the World Juniors, that's nothing new to Torini. Every year they give you your hand and you need to play your cards right, he says. They're all different. I've been there when there was an NHL lockout in 2013. I've been in the situation where we were defending 5 gold medals in a row at home in 2010. They're all unbelievable challenges. So there's no such thing as one that was not difficult. It's always unbelievably difficult, and that's what makes it so special. If it was not difficult, everybody could do it. That's a part of a privilege. There's really isn't much Torini hasn't experienced in his coaching career. After 11 years in Rouyn-Noranda, he joined Patrick Waugh's staff with the Colorado Avalanche for 2 seasons, then spent 1 as an assistant with the Ottawa Senators. He returned to the QMJHL for 1 season with the Halifax Mooseheads in 2016-17 before taking his current role as head coach and vice president of hockey operations with the Ottawa 67s of the Ontario Hockey League the next year. Torini's international achievements date back more than a decade. Once he learned English at the request of his players with the Huskies, new doors opened and intriguing opportunities presented themselves. He was prodded to apply to Hockey Canada, got his first assignment as an assistant with Canada's gold medal winning national men's summer U18 team at the 2008 Memorial of Ivan Hlinka tournament, and was off and running from there. On top of his World Junior exploits, his only previous head coaching experience with Team Canada came at the 2018 Hlinka Gretzky Cup when he led his team, which included 11 players who are on the World Junior roster this year, to gold in Edmonton. Before I learned English, it was not something I ever thought about because it was not something that was available to me, Torini says. It is a dream for me to coach my country. While Torini is quick to rattle off the Hockey Canada hierarchy, who have given him his opportunities. Bob Nicholson, Tom Rennie, Brad Pascal, and Scott Salmond are the first names from his mouth. There's one special group of people for whom he reserves his highest praise. None of what he has done in his coaching career would have been possible without the backing of his family, his wife Melanie, 20-year-old twin sons Felix Antoine and Jean-Philippe, and daughter Marie Lee, who is 17. They've sacrificed so much, Trini says. They've got Team Canada jerseys on, always supporting me, and every year I feel as excited as I am to be a part of it. So getting to know Andre Tourigny, certainly a pleasure. He's just so proud to do what he does, and to be part of Hockey Canada, has been obviously the highlight of his career, again, as mentioned. So something to keep in mind. And again, with Scott Salmond, or without him, this wouldn't have been possible. So for that reason, a huge congrats to him. I think that this was a really big thing for, Tourigny to form those, proper relationships with both Salmond and Tom Rennie, the CEO of Hockey Canada and formerly of the New York Rangers. So, just a really special time. And so, I wouldn't put it past Tourigny for, being as grateful and thankful as he is to be in the position he is today, coaching the national team, who again is 3-0 and looking to become 4-0 against Finland on New Year's Eve at the best tournament of the year during the holiday season. Yes, it's hard to be away from family, but Tourigny, as long as he has the success under his belt, it's all worth it, and he's made that rather clear. So that being said, we're going to continue moving along. Again, the one thing I'm going to point back to is that Dawson Mercer was a player he was familiar with, obviously, from his QMJHL days, more so in the 2016-17 realm than the last time he appeared in the QMJHL around 2002. But speaking about Dawson Mercer, what I will say is he spoke with Amanda Stein after signing his ELC on December the 24th and said, "I'm really happy about the results and what's about to come in New Jersey. And a lot of what's about to come is he's going to put to the ice directly in Edmonton, as he already has, throughout the remainder of this tournament. My prediction, of course, being Canada and Russia for the gold medal game. I spoke with Craig Budden as well on the Puck Authority podcast prior to the tournament, who also predicted that. I had my reservations thinking it would be Canada and U.S., but now I'm starting to see it that while the U.S. certainly is impressing in their own right, Team Russia is, they just continue to make their case offensively. So, that's kind of where I stand in terms of, what's going on now. So, that being said, let's get into more World Juniors. Again, I mentioned the critics of Quinton Byfield, but, they were certainly silenced. Again, that story from Lauren Kelly on sportsnet.ca. A lot of top people did a deep dive on him yesterday. And, you have to realize that this is one of the top tournaments of the year, and, it doesn't come easily to just, hit the ice and do it. So, there's pressure obviously surrounding, and as that reason goes, Byfield finally got himself going in a way that he feels comfortable. And so I am going to read the quotes from yesterday's press conference. So that being said, I'm going to go to those quotes directly. So from yesterday's game, Andre Tourigny said, "I think we are much better than at the start of the tournament. We have more chemistry, less hesitation in our game, more structure, more confidence. We are a hard forechecking team that has the ability to counterattack quickly. We have big bodies who can create turnovers, and our defense skates well. The defense kills plays in the neutral zone, and we know who we are now better than we did a week ago." Now, in terms of Byfield following his 6-point night, he said, "Not playing hockey for 8 to 9 months definitely affects you a little bit, and I feel like I had to ease myself back into it. I finally found my footing, but I've been playing the same way. I've been trying to play hard and play our structure, but everything kind of just happened tonight. Me and Jacob Pelletier had some good connection on some of our goals, and we were getting the bounces." Now, speaking of Pelletier said, "I think we played a full game tonight. We kept things simple, and it definitely feels good to get the win. You can see from the start of the tournament that our team has been progressing well. I think the entire team is ready to play Finland and all our next opponents." So, these players come in ready, and, they're ready to come in hot and, essentially pull the trigger on their next opponent and get themselves into a position where they can win and further their success with a record of 4-0. So, of course, just a couple notes to keep in mind. So again, Canada's next game is only a couple days away to that note. So, if you're not watching this tournament yet, make sure you are watching this tournament. But for more reasons than just the success that happens on the ice, the refs are hilarious. So I have to mention this. every day since the tournament started, the ref at center ice has made a comment during each and every game. Yesterday's was really, really funny when Canada took on the Swiss, and that was stay positive, test negative. So, these refs have jokes, and it's making this tournament all the more enjoyable. I'm really getting a kick out of these, because every day it's something else. But, it's a fun little additive. So, just something to keep in mind, of course. Now, for further action, you can follow Stephen Ellis, THN, a good friend of mine, who has been on the ball with covering this tournament via Twitter, as well as on the Hockey News, part of Sports Illustrated. This is my favorite time of the year, and the players, while they realize that this is unusual in the circumstances, they're appreciating the tweets of support, the virtual fans who are tuning in throughout the games with access from Hockey Canada, including the families, which have been those of Bowen Byram, Dylan Cousins. I believe Dawson Mercers are tuned in as well. Just something really special. So, make sure you're following along. But right now, as it's 2:14 p.m., Finland and Slovakia are facing off on TSN with minor changes for Finland. Peroinen is back in net. Nazco for a draft pick of Columbus will miss today's game for Slovakia. So other than that, no major changes to say the very least. But that to be said, these games are all very, very much accessible. What I will note is on December the 28th, the Czechs got their only win of the tournament when they shut out the Russians. It's the first time that they have done so since, I believe, 2006. So while it's just an ordinary game, they celebrated this like they won the gold medal. And so I thought that was really entertaining. That video courtesy of TSN, of course. And the Czech Republic, keep in mind, they've got some talent on their roster. They won 2-0, and the talent on their roster again includes Romer Pitlick and Jan Mysick. Their goaltender's also been their goaltending tandem has been really impressive. So just a couple things to keep in mind, of course. But this is a really entertaining time of year. And so, let's continue to hope that this tournament gets through without any more positive tests, because the action on the ice is just pure gold. And we're seeing it firsthand. So that really closes out my World Juniors coverage for today. Of course, I'll be back next week with much more on the actual tournament from this week's action. Another player I would keep my eyes on for Austria, aside from Marco Rossi at this point, is Senna Peters, who got his country's first goal of the World Juniors again the other night on a great feed from Marco Kasper, cutting Russia's lead to 4-1. And that was just last night. So, Senna Peters has certainly proven his case. That's just something to keep in mind on when you look at Austria, who not many are impressed with and perhaps expected too much of, because they are relying on Marco Rossi way too much, and that's not healthy. It's not going to give you the success you're looking for. You can't turn to one person and basically say, or whether you're, literally saying it or figuratively saying it by keep passing him the puck, you can't do that. That's too much pressure, too much reliability. Marco Rossi is good, but that's no position to put him in, and it's not going to advance your team, and it's not going to get your team where your team needs to be. So Austria, I could see as an up and coming team in the years ahead, but not this year. They're probably going to be the first ones eliminated. Again, the quarterfinals are just up ahead with preliminary round action closing out on New Year's Eve with Canada and Team Finland. So that being said, again, 3 games on the go today. Game 1 is currently underway, like I mentioned. So please tune in if you haven't already done so on TSN 1, TSN 4, and TSN 5. Finland versus Slovakia, followed by Switzerland and Germany, and then closing out the night with Russia and Sweden. And then tomorrow, you're going to see Czech Republic and Austria. Now, again, Czech Republic and Austria, I couldn't even tell you who to give the upper hand to. I want to say the Czech Republic just because they do have more star power than Austria has. But with Senna Peters starting to show alongside Marco Rossi, might just give them a fighting chance. But the goaltenders have been good. Not spectacular, but good. So, I don't know. Goaltending, maybe I give Czech Republic the upper hand. So, I don't know. something to watch out for. And I'm going to be speaking with Joe Tilley, one of our own here at Barn Burner, at some point in the near future to review the World Juniors. And with the Puck Authority podcast, I will also have Curtis Martin on from Over the Line Sports. So, look for a couple of good conversations at thepuckauthority.com, at puckauthority1 on Twitter. Then maybe I'll have a World Juniors guest for next week's show. I might even bring on Josh Kim. So someone else whose insight on the World Juniors has been spectacular. If you have not yet listened to last week's episode of the Puck Authority podcast alongside myself and Joseph Stanislaw, some really quality stuff for a really quality tournament. And this has just been a thrill to be a part of at least the selection camp portion. So just make sure you're supporting these young kids, because truthfully, they deserve it. There are kids in this tournament who are as young as 16 years old. Last night, what was really funny is that Ryan Rishock had a conversation with Marco Kasper, who is, again, just 16 years old. His father was playing hockey and played in both an Olympics and 5 world championships. And so Casper is looking to follow in his footsteps. And so last night he was actually asked about homework, which was really funny given he's 16 years old. And so he said that he had homework to start, but given that there's no school right now, along with the holidays and the COVID-19 pandemic, changing the status from everything remote, across the world, he said there's not so much right now. But Ryan Rishog really got a laugh out of that, saying kids like this are the reason I love this tournament. Yes, they are in tough, and yes, the scores can get run up at times, but they're proud to be here and they'll never forget this experience. And so, they joke about it. They find the humor in this. And truthfully, they're just here to enjoy it. And, again, the World Juniors have become kind of the fighting arm of, a long year that it's been for us with COVID-19, and to get our minds off of this and to get us on a positive note. And, while I realize that might sound, I don't know, selfish, it's also something to rally around. And I think that that's kind of been the big picture message more than the, we wanted this for our entertainment, especially because of the COVID-19 complications that have been suffered since the end of November. Again, when you look at Team Canada, then you look at the quarantines of Team Sweden and Germany arriving in the Edmonton bubble. So, it's given everyone something to rally around. I mean, you see in Finland, people are up until 4 a.m. watching their team. The same can be said for, Switzerland, Germany. It's just everyone connects on this note when you come to hockey, especially, this particular hockey being the World Junior Championship. The Spengler Cup is another tournament that happens every year. It's not actually happening this year, which would happen in Switzerland. But the World Juniors was kind of a rally cry, or at least it's kind of become that way. And so, we're seeing, I'll put it this way. It's hard to evaluate players when we're seeing blowouts each night the way we have been. But that to be said, we are seeing some of the best players put their products out and make it known at the very least. And sure, this tournament on a normal occasion is meant for proper evaluation and non-blowouts. But when you have a roster like Team Canada's or Team USA's, where for Canada you have 21st round draft picks, for Team USA you have some of the up and coming top prospects of the National Hockey League, including Cole Caulfield, Jake Sanderson, just to name a few, you realize that there are going to be obvious challenges. Team USA, again, already lost Johnny Beecher, Thomas Bordelot, Drew Comesso, among others. That would have only made their roster a ton more stronger, but they did get Hunter Skinner from the London Knights of the OHL. You look around their roster and you see that there are other strong names to be had. And so, you can't, say that this tournament doesn't bring out the best, because that's the one thing that they do. They bring out the best, and that's just, an obvious note that I think is, worth mentioning to this point. So, last thing I'm going to mention is, I did mention earlier in this show that Team Canada has been, doing this kind of rally cry thing where they're trying to do something special in lieu of the fact that there are no fans, and in lieu of the fact that they're, doing this alone, and they recognize that, and the fans are, apart from them. And so last night, or Yeah, I think this was last night at least. Mark Masters wrote that every player and staff member on Team Canada has sent a signed sweater to someone special to let them know they're a part of this World Juniors team. Head coach Andre Tourigny said, "We're all in this together and we want to make Canada proud." Now, Dawson Mercer sent his to a kid who is currently battling leukemia. There's a message from Scott Salmon. But Dawson Mercer said this personally. "Hey, buddy, it's Dawson Mercer. I know you are going through some hard times right now and wanted to reach out to you. Remember to stay strong and stay safe. And stay close to your family and friends. Here's a signed jersey from the 2021 World Junior Team Canada. Keep it up, Aiden. Stay strong, Dawson. In this together." Now, the message from Scott Salmon said this: "At Hockey Canada, we recognize that 2020 has been a year full of new challenges. In an effort to express our gratitude to those who have risen to these challenges, our players led an initiative called In This Together. As part of this initiative, each player and staff identified an individual who they feel have handled these challenges with humility, poise, and courage. And that is where you come in. Please accept this autographed Team Canada jersey in recognition of the sacrifices you have made, the challenges you have faced, and the grace with which you have done. Though we are far apart right now, we are all in this together. Happy holidays, Scott Salmon, Senior VIP National Teams." So, Team Canada always still going to do the right thing, and I believe with this, they have certainly done just that. So that brings us to the end of this episode of the OHL/World Juniors Experience right here on the Barn Burner TV Network and Zingo TV channel 250. Make sure you continue to follow along with the World Junior Tournament. You can follow me on Twitter for that at Justin Levine HBS. You can also follow along at IIHF Hockey, at IIHF_WJC, at HC_WJC, at Hockey Canada, at Stephen Ellis, at Lord Kelly 24, and at Rachel Dory. Two people I really respect alongside Stephen Ellis, and two really insightful and really, really kind and really willing individuals. So that does it for me. My name is Justin Levine. This has been the OHL Experience on the Barn Burner TV Network and Zingo TV channel 250. Make sure to social distance, wash your hands, and stay safe.